Good morning, everyone, again. I'm so glad that all of you had time in your busy days from your... Keith, could you turn the microphone up? I've got somebody that's saying they can't hear me. There we go. Is that a little better? You can hear... President, was that a little better? All right. So thank you very much for being here today and taking time out of your busy work schedules to come to the Business and Leaders Luncheon. I fondly call them the BLTs, Business and Leaders Talking, because BLTs are what I order for lunch a lot. There's that eggs and brunch thing that some chambers do for the morning, and I call mine the BLTs. Anyway, thank you for being here today. I'm Lynn Snodgrass, the CEO of the best darn and the most resilient chamber in the Pacific Northwest. Most of you know that we had a slight problem at the office space at Walker Travel 3 weeks ago where an arson came, and I've never been through a fire before. I will never go through it again, I hope. It's very difficult, but I can tell you that staff has been amazing. They have done everything they can to not let anything fall through the cracks. There's some speed bumps along the way. Oh, we didn't know we didn't have that. It's a little hard to print because we don't have a printer. But we didn't lose access to the accounting system, so your dues are still due. So, having said that, I want to introduce you to our sponsors of the event. No nonprofit can do things without sponsors, and when you're a community and business organization, it's especially joyful to have folks stand up and fund projects. Our presenting sponsors are Columbia Bank, the Boeing Company, Portland General Electric, and our newest presenting sponsor is Persimmon Country Club. So I want to welcome Persimmon to the list of presenting sponsors. And I also want to thank our stakeholder sponsor, which is Gresham Barlow School District. And we have one of our board members from Gresham Barlow with us today. Kathy Keithley is here today. Thank you very much, Kathy, for being here. And please express our appreciation to your board and to the administration for their sponsorship. And MetroEast Community Media. I get that right more and more now, I do. Keith, thank you for being here. That reminds me, this is recorded and it's going to be replayed. So all the fun things you're going to hear today from our speaker, from the city manager, you can listen to them again if you missed something. Or you could tell your friends, this was an awesome forum, so let's do it. And we'll have the sheets available. Keith, did we bring the sheets this time? They're on the registration table on your way out. You can pick one of those up and see when it's going to be rebroadcasted. This was a busy month for the chamber and for the community with the fire, for sure, but also with the Adopt a Cop program. I want to go into a couple of those in just a minute, but next I want to introduce some very important people to me personally, because they're all my bosses. I want to introduce our president, the chamber president with Health Benefits 411, Leslie Parker. Thank you, Leslie, for being here today and for being the president. And our president-elect is sitting 2 seats over from her, Brian York. He's the president-elect, and he's with Clackamas County Bank. Thank you, Brian. Got you with your mouth full. And Steve Brown, a board member with Pamplin, the Outlook, Pamplin Media Group. Thank you, Steve, for being in. He's on the executive board and the finance committee, or just the executive board? One of those big, high, powerful groups. Well, anyway, thank you, 3. And I think that is all the board members that we have so far with us today. I also want to introduce each of you to the elected officials that are with us today. Thank you, Mayor, for coming, and you're not speaking today. Not that that's a good thank you that you're not speaking today, but I want to thank you for being here with us today, for taking time. He also is a business owner. He owns eRep. If you haven't used his services, you should try them out. They're amazing. My husband's business, as well as the chamber, has used it, and he's an ongoing asset to the Leadership Academy program, eRep is. So Mayor, thank you for being here today. And we have 3 council members with us today. Councilor Gladfelter, thank you very much, Councilor, for being here. Councilor Morales, there you are. I was looking for you over here. I thought you were coming over here. Councilor Morales, thank you. So you're in 2nd term? You're a seasoned councilor? Not as seasoned as Gladfelter, but yeah, okay. There you go. Years go by. When you're my age, years just don't matter anymore. But thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And Councilor Vincent Jones Dixon. Councillor Jones-Dixon is with us today. And Councillor Dixon has to leave early, so if he gets up and leaves, it has nothing to do with what's being said at the time that he has to leave. So, did I say that right? Okay, there you go. There you go. All right. So I want to thank you for being here today. So, a quick shout out about the fire. A lot of people want to know, where are you? How's it going? First of all, the most important thing is that everybody was safe. Nobody got hurt. It happened at 2 a.m. They caught the arsonist, and it's in the process of being taken care of. When I say caught, that doesn't mean charge. That doesn't mean that it's ending. So I just want to let you know what that process is. So nobody was hurt, and that's a great thing. But the damage is insurmountable. It's to 2 businesses. The smoke damage, the water damage, the fire damage, it happened to a 100-year-old building, and that's an icon of our community. So the chamber is in the process of looking into the space. We'll probably continue to be partners with Rocker Travel, because we have a contract with them for starters, but that's the space that we're looking forward to continuing. For those of you that reached out to us during this whole process, it was very uplifting that you reached out. It was very appreciated. But just hearing good comments, we've got space available. What can we do to help? Blah, 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 blah. It was very heartwarming, and the staff, the team really appreciated hearing from you as well. So when we look for new space, as we are doing right now, we are an important asset. The chamber is an important asset from a business community perspective, but we're also an important asset as a visitor center. And so I'm looking for space to be a very accessible, visible, because we have over 3,000 businesses in Gresham that rely on the visitor center to welcome people to come, for us to give directions to, et cetera. So that's an important asset. It's an important thing to look for when we're looking for new space. It can't be someplace upstairs back in a corner. For the chamber it could be, but not for a visitor center. We need to have that visibility, and the Gresham community deserves that visibility. So the 4th largest city in Gresham in the state deserves at least the 4th largest impressive visitor center as well. So that's what we're looking for. And space is not readily available. So if any of you have a 2,000 square foot area that's really visible on a busy street, let me know. We could have this thing signed before I leave today. So it also is important to understand that when you have a fire, if you haven't had a fire, when you have a fire, it's not in the room that was burnt, but it is in the room that had ash and soot and smoke. So everything stinks. And I had just bought 4 things of toilet paper, and for those of you that know me, I'm cheap, so I went to 2-ply. I just bought a whole bunch of those end of the year. I bought paper end of the year. I bought a new copier end of the year. I end of the yeared it. Those of you that have businesses understand if you have profit at the end of the year, it's good to pay some of that down then, because the next year budgeting is different. I did that. I was a good business person, and it's coming back to bite me because now all that stuff is gone. We can't use any of that. Got a good sale on smoky toilet paper if any of you want to buy toilet paper. But I will tell you that all of you have been very helpful. Clackamas County Bank, helpful that fast. We had a brand new Visa machine. It was in the smoke dust. 24 hours later, we had it cleaned. The soot gets in the little inside stuff. 24 hours, Clackamas County Bank had it cleaned and returned. So that's the end of the fire story. We're underway. Again, nothing has changed from a staff perspective. Everybody has been working really hard, and only little things have happened. Now, going on to the Adopt a Cop program. I heard this morning the end of the Adopt a Cop program. What the climax were, if you want, as it turns out to be, that we had a photo taken, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I didn't have good communication while I was away. And when I heard what happened, that the police officers planned a drive-by for all the businesses and honking horns, and people came to have their photos taken. And so all along, this whole process, this whole month has been very gratifying, and it's given the community an opportunity to thank the officers for what they do for the community. But it also was helpful to the morale of the police officers. All across the United States, the morale is really low. And if you can imagine being in an industry where everybody thinks you're awful, like if you were a lawyer, You know, I didn't say that on TV. Can you X that out? Take care of that. The point is that morale in that industry has been very low, and how the community responded, not just businesses, but individuals, how they responded and wanted to reach out and do what they could to celebrate the fact that we have a police force that loves and values safety in our city and what they do for them. So anyway, that was a great program, but it brought me to tears when Aaron shared with me what I'm calling it the final day. It wasn't the final day necessarily, but having a photo in Main City Park, and thank you for the city for allowing us to gather together to have that photo taken. So anyway, so the thing is that you want to do it again next year. I thought this was a one and done, but it sounds to me like this is a one and many, not a one and done. So I said, we'll do it again as soon as we do adopt a CEO. That didn't fly. So we're going to do that. So with that being said, what I would like to do is introduce somebody to you. Before our main speaker comes, I would like to introduce you to Tag. Tag is the comfort dog, and Officer Anderson, who is Tag's agent. I'm going to call you an agent because he's the star. You're just you have to be there kind of person, right? I want to have him come up and tell you a little bit about how Tag came to be. And so I'm going to give him 5 minutes this morning just to explain, as an extension of the Adopt a Cop. That's when I found out about Tag. I had no clue because I hadn't been through that kind of a trauma to be introduced to Tag. He's an asset to the community, one of the few comfort dogs in the United States, but for sure in Oregon. So anyway, Officer Anderson, if you'd like to come up, and you've got 5 minutes, but if you speed through it and you only do 4, I'm gonna give you a ticket. So you have 5 minutes. Use the whole 5 minutes. There you go.
Thank you very much. And before I introduce the rest of my team, I just want to say that thank you very much. The Adopt a Cop program was a huge success from our end as officers. It was incredible to see a vocal outpouring of support for all of the police officers in Gresham. And so I just want to say personally from me and the other officers, thank you so much. That was really, really great event, and we were happy to have that experience. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Officer Chris Anderson. To my left is Maddie Zimmerman. She's a mental health social worker. And to my right is Sarah Tall, also a mental health social worker. And we have Tag, the Gresham Police Comfort Dog. So Tag's program started a couple years ago. He's completely funded by donations. And the idea was that having an animal around helps reduce stress and anxiety, and police officers are no different than anyone else. So the idea was to have kind of an office pet. And so Tag was gifted to our department by Guide Dogs for the Blind. He came fully trained and ready to go. And so he has been such a key part of our team. And he kind of hangs around the office, and he's available to community members. He helps in investigations, and is a good symbol for our department, and helps with those community engagements. During the day, his day job is to work with us as part of the service coordination team with Gresham. And what we do is a mental health kind of crisis response team. We're currently grant funded, and what we do is we respond to persons in crisis in the Gresham community, and it may be an active crisis going on at the time when it generates a 911 police call. It might be after the fact when officers have responded and they referred us to their client or their citizen, and then we go out and kind of follow up and meet with them and make sure that they are connected to appropriate resources and they're getting assistance that they need. And so it's a really great program. Well, we're all very passionate about the work that we do. We feel it's needed in our community and elsewhere in the state. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about it. So thank you for giving us this platform to just let people know that we exist and we're out there doing this. And, I'm sure I can leave my card or have email. We're open to help anyone in the community. It doesn't have to be a police matter per se. It can be a family member or friend or neighbor or whatever. So thank you. I know that we are I don't know that everybody knows that we exist, so we wanted to put that out there and just let people know that we're doing good work and that we have this program and that we are available to the citizens of Gresham. So thank you very much for the
Can I
time.
ask a question?
Absolutely.
If, let's see, a business, ShopGirl. So ShopGirl Consignment, if ShopGirl Consignment wanted to have Tag come to her business and advertise, come meet Tag that day or come meet Tag that hour as part of her business aura, is that possible? Is that legal? Is it encouraged or discouraged? How do you handle that?
I don't think it's discouraged, but usually about an hour is the most we try and dedicate during a day, just because he does have other roles to fill. But we're more than welcome to get out there and, have him come by in the community and just be a face and have people come by. If nothing else, it just highlights the fact of the good work that he's doing and the rest of us. So yeah, we're open. I have an email. I have a sergeant that can also go through him, and he can kind of help set up things for scheduling like that.
So at our time, could you take donations from have that hour time? Is that possible too?
So,
is that legal or not? You said grant funded, so how does that work?
Yeah, so our team is grant funded. TAG particularly is through donations, and if you go on the city website, there's a few tabs you can click through to get to his funding page.
Okay.
So we also have other people in the community have donated. Banfield Hospital has donated his medical care for a couple years. Mars has donated food. We have Soapy Dog is going to give him a spa day tomorrow, so we're excited for that. So those kinds of things are helpful as well.
Okay.
And then
so
he
it
just
sounds
has
like getting
fun.
the word out would be important. So if you can figure out how in your business you could get the word out with your staff or with customers, that would be very helpful. The money is another aspect, the donations, but getting the word out of the value that TAG brings to the community is wonderful. You have a question? Talk really loud.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Edith. I'm with El Programa Hispano. We're a nonprofit here in Gresham, and we have support groups for DV and SA survivors, as well as parent groups.
Yeah.
Would TAG be able to come in to some of those support groups?
Yeah, I think that would be completely appropriate. We would like to do that. And he's especially helpful with kids, especially victims of domestic violence in those homes. He kind of breaks down that barrier a little bit and opens the line of communication. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay.
Thank
Hey,
you.
You sped right through it and you didn't get a ticket.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you.
Dogs are very healing. Yes, Tom. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity,
Uh-huh.
can the Adopt a Cop program run all year long and we just celebrate once a month? Should it be?
I'll take that under advisement. So this was the first time, Tom, your question's great. His question, for those of you who couldn't hear, is that couldn't we do an Adopt a Cop program for a whole year and then just celebrate it each month? We did the Adopt a Cop program as a response to the current morale, but also because I've had a lot of businesses that say, what can we do? So for that specific reason, that's how we came up with the program, and we accomplished that goal for that program. Looking into it as a full year program, it could be. We're a business organization, so we need to make sure it's business related. So I will take that under advisement. Thank you. Yeah, it's great. I'm glad to hear that you might be the chair of that particular program. Okay. All right. Speaking of program, we're going to get on to the meat of the program and why all of you are here today. Today we're going to hear from the newest member of the city leadership team, Nina Vetter, the city manager. Nina graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration, and she has a master's in public administration. She came to Gresham about 6 months ago. I don't remember, wasn't it about 6 months? Six, seven? Time goes, yeah. From Pueblo West. Where in the heck is Pueblo West? Well, first, it's in Colorado. That kind of narrows it down. So if you drive from here to Eugene, it's about 125 miles. The exact mileage from Pueblo West to Denver. So Pueblo West is outside of Denver, 125 miles. Smaller community with roots in farming and gold mining. as I came in. I don't think there's any gold around here, so that the comparison is no longer. But getting a job in Gresham is like hitting gold. She came from a gold mining community, and now she's hit gold by being here, I think. Today, Nina will share with us where Gresham is going and how we are going to get there. As always, after her presentation, there'll be time for Q&A, questions and answers from the audience. So write down your questions that you might want to ask her as she's speaking for clarification, whatever. So, Nina, the podium is yours. Come on up. Thank you so much for being here. Adjust the microphone if you need to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad you got to hear from TAG and our mental health team. They do phenomenal work. My only question is when they're getting a comfort cat, because I'm a cat person more than a dog person. So I bring that up at least once a week over at the police department. Still waiting. Any day now. But thank you for having me. I am today going to focus on, like Lynn said, what's happening at the city today, where are we going, and how we're going to get there. So I do really want to focus on 3 key areas, also hitting on topics that I think I've heard are really important to our community right now. But I'll start with things when I've been here about 7 months, and I love Gresham. I love being part of the community. We're in the process of buying a house, so knock on wood, hopefully everything goes well. And being a part of Gresham is terrific. We have an awesome team at the City of Gresham. You get to meet some of our great employees today. We have over 600 people who serve the City of Gresham, who work in everything from fire and police to finance to public works to stormwater. We do everything across the city. We serve a lot of people with 600 staff. It's really amazing what our team is able to accomplish every day to keep the city quite literally running so that you can, water comes out when you turn on your sink, the toilet flushes, 911, people show up when you need them. All of that behind the scenes work is done by a fabulous team. So first, just please recognize our city team is absolutely amazing. But like I said, today I'm going to focus on 3 key areas. I also, if you know me at all, I don't like hearing myself talk, so I probably won't talk terribly long, and then have a lot of time for Q&A. And I'm also happy to talk on any other topics that you want to hear about today. But I really thought these 3 things were most important. So we're going to talk about Imagine Gresham, which hopefully Ashley caught you on your way in today. So you heard a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Safe Gresham, our community violence prevention initiative, and also talk about federal dollars, yay money, where we're putting our federal dollars that we're getting to use. So we'll start with the first one. Next slide, please. Yay. First, we're going to talk about Safe Gresham. And we know that safety is incredibly important to our community. And we know that, unfortunately, across the country, there's been an increase in crime and violence. In particular, in our region, there's been a sharp increase in gun violence. And so the question always is, what are we doing? The good news is we have put in some work over time, so we're not starting from scratch. But the Safe Gresham initiative recognizes that community violence prevention is not just a law enforcement problem. Law enforcement plays a key role, of course, but they cannot do it alone. And so it recognizes that we really need to focus on collaborating with the community, collaborating with our community-based organizations and our culturally specific organizations, some of which we have here today. And it also focuses on making sure that we're really prioritizing the prevention function. So we're very excited that our city council has supported the development of a larger youth violence prevention program. And this program ensures that we're providing opportunities to our youth, whether that's through programming like late night basketball, that's through mentoring, other recreational opportunities in our parks, but it's giving the youth the opportunities and the support systems that they need to be successful. So that program started a few years ago, very small, and now thanks to our city council and state funding, is going to be much bigger and larger and really a focus of our city as we move forward. Again, ensuring that we're focusing on prevention up front and making sure that's something that we're doing ongoing. We can't solve crime and violence by just focusing on the end. We need to focus on what's starting it, what's contributing to it, and we're very excited about the great work that our youth violence prevention program will be doing. Our other 2 pillars that we call them on Safe Gresham, besides the prevention aspect, is collaboration and intervention. And that's where law enforcement and our community have an opportunity to work more collaboratively together. And our law enforcement in the city of Gresham has great networks and opportunities to work with our other regional partners, work with the state, and work with federal organizations like FBI Safe Streets. So you can find out a lot more information about Safe Gresham on our website. So if you go to greshamoregon.gov/safegresham, you can look at each of the pillars and see exactly what we're doing in each of those areas. Specific to law enforcement, and we'll touch on that for just a minute, we're very fortunate our city council, through the use of the one-time federal dollars that I'm going to talk about in a minute, approved the use of those funds for additional positions. One of the things I'm going to talk about later that we're really challenged with as a city is that we have limited resources. Our city has grown over the years, but our staffing hasn't kept pace with the growth of our city and the demand that we have for the services that we provide. And that's the same goes with law enforcement, right? We have the same number of law enforcement personnel we've had for a long time, and now we have an increase in population, increase in crime and violence that's putting a lot of burden and stress on our law enforcement. So City Council approved the use of funds for some civilian positions, those are non-sworn police positions, to really help out with what we're facing today. They also approved the use of funds for recruitment and retention of officers as well, knowing that it's not only important to add these non-civilian positions, but important to make sure that we're doing our best to retain who we have and our best to recruit other officers if they have an interest in coming to Gresham. So that's a brief overview of Safe Gresham. Again, if you want to know more, I encourage you to visit the website. We also will be doing updates as we progress through this project. And of course, if you always want to learn more, you can always tune into a city council meeting, everyone's favorite thing, and learn more about what's going on. We do provide updates regularly regarding this initiative and generally what's happening at the city at those meetings. Okay, next slide. And that flows nicely into talking about federal dollars. So the city of Gresham, as you may have heard, received federal dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act. We received $12.7 million. And then we will be looking at additional funds in 2022. And these funds were designated by the federal government for the city to help the city itself recover from the impacts of COVID, as well as for us to help the community that was most hit by COVID, help them recover as well. So that's the intention of the funds. They can't just be used for anything. You could read the, I think it's 200-page document, guidelines, if you want to, from the federal government about what it can and can't be used for. But it does give us some flexibility. Again, really trying to respond to the impacts of COVID. So the first thing, well, two things we did when the city did find out that it would be receiving funds. One is we conducted a community survey, hoping some of you, did anyone participate in that? Yeah, I get a few head nods, great. So we did great response from across the city and heard that there was a few clear top areas that the community really wanted us to invest in. The first was public health and safety, and the second was homelessness and housing. And then following those two top priorities, we also had general community support and small business support. So we took that information, and then we also brought to our city council some principles. So again, ARPA can only be used for some things, but there is a pretty broad range of what ARPA dollars could be used for. They can be used for operational needs like adding police civilian positions, but also for large infrastructure projects, maybe a grant program. There is a big range of uses. So we brought to our city council, what principles do we want to lead with as we try to make funding decisions on how we're going to spend these dollars. And we talked about making sure that it's a strategic use of one-time funds, that it has a great impact on our community, that it's equitable, and that we're transparent. So that's what we led with. Then we took those community survey results and we brought to council a funding package. This is a brief kind of high-level summary of where some of the funds have gone. But again, recognizing that our community really values and told us that public safety was most important. City Council has approved the use of almost $3 million towards those public safety needs, which includes the addition of the civilian position. It includes retention dollars, recruitment bonus dollars. It also includes the addition of firefighters in addition to police officers. Again, I was speaking earlier about our funding challenges. And as a city grows, the demand for services grows, particularly in public safety. That's where we see a lot of the big impact. And our fire department has been operating with the same staffing model for a very long time, even as Gresham has continued to grow. So they're really feeling the pinch. The number of calls they're getting in a 24-hour shift is so much higher than it was before. And they really are spending 24 hours up and about responding to calls. So City Council did approve the use of funds for some firefighter positions as well to help alleviate that burden and make sure that our firefighters have the bandwidth to perform at their best, right? Because that's what we need them to do. Again, recognizing the community's priorities, we funded the Youth Violence Prevention Program, which really is a key piece of our Safe Gresham initiative. We also funded some additional resources for homelessness. Particularly, we funded another homeless outreach team specialist. You may be familiar with our Gresham homeless outreach team. They do a great job. They primarily deal with chronically homeless who are currently unsheltered. We don't have the resources to handle all things related to homelessness. That's not within our scope. But we do have a great team that deals with this one aspect. So we added one person to that team, and we added a housing resource coordinator. Recognizing that housing insecurity is a really big challenge, and for those who are housing insecure, it can be really hard to figure out what are the right resources. Where do I go? How do I know if I apply for this county funds? How does it relate to the state grant funds that are available? That can be really challenging. So this person is a resource for those who may be housing insecure if they need some help navigating all the different systems and processes that we have in our state, because we have resources, but sometimes it's hard to connect all of them. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah. Question, make sure I understand that right. So there's a $12 million grant coming from the feds. Is the $3 million that we're giving towards public safety just this year, or is that the total of the 12 that we're giving to public safety?
Good question. So far, City Council has allocated the portion that we received in 2021 only. And we still do have a balance that we haven't allocated yet. So later in 2022, we won't receive the funds likely until fall. So we're going to wait till we get a little bit closer to that timeline. We will then go back to City Council with options for the use of the remainder of the 2021 dollars as well as the 2022. Good question. Feel free to raise your hand while I'm going if you have a question in the moment.
Well, you can raise your hand, but we need to, in order for the recording, we need to be sure that you're on the microphone. So go ahead.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah,
Forgot
you're
about
welcome.
that. I'll wait for you with the mic next time.
I just want you to look good. So, on the TV recap. Go ahead and continue, please.
Okay, will do. Really quick to wrap up this part. Two other, I think, really great uses of the American Rescue Plan Act dollars is a small business grant program that we have out right now. Again, visit the website if you want to learn more to help businesses impacted by COVID, and also community grant program as well for community-based organizations as well as nonprofits that can take advantage of those resources. So great funding opportunities here. And then we're going to go to my last, but definitely not least, and most important thing, Imagine Gresham. Thank you, Ashley, for being here today in the lobby to talk to you all about Imagine Gresham. So what is Imagine Gresham? It's imagining the future of Gresham. Duh. Okay. I tell bad jokes, sorry. But it's two things. So Imagine Gresham is our process to develop a long-term strategic plan for the city so that we have a long-term vision for where we're going. In the past, we've operated off of a yearly council work plan, which identified specific priorities or projects, but we haven't had this multi-year, where are we trying to go in the future? What does the future of Gresham look like? We haven't had that. So this is our opportunity to build that plan. It also is our plan and process to develop a long-term financial plan. Like I mentioned earlier, the city does not have enough resources today, staffing, capital, all the above, to really do what people want of us today and to implement anything new or more. We really struggle just to do what we've signed up to do, to provide the services we've told you we can provide with the staffing we have today. So we need a long-term financial plan that gives us the resources we need to be successful. So Imagine Gresham does both. We're gonna have a strategic plan and a financial plan that's gonna support us. So between today, well, actually in January when we launched it, between January of this year and this summer, we're developing both. So where we're at right now, and why Ashley caught you in the lobby, is the first few months, the first phase of Imagine Gresham is really focused on community engagement. We want to make sure that this long-term plan really encompasses everything that our community thinks is valuable, that our community thinks looks like the future of Gresham. So we're doing a ton of community engagement. Our first phase will actually wrap up this month. And if Ashley didn't catch you in the lobby, or if you want to say more, on your tables today, you have a little flyer that talks about Imagine Gresham, and under that, you have a piece of paper. It asks you what you love about Gresham and then what you see in the future. So feel free to fill that out and leave it. We will collect them. We've been collecting information from all different kinds of places. There's some great installations and small businesses around Gresham. Hopefully you've seen some of those. We've had some in-person events, some virtual events. We've been going out to schools, which has been such a cool experience to hear from kids what they see as the future of Gresham. So a lot of community engagement. Super excited about that. Again, I'm going to wrap up later this month. Then we move into our next few phases where we develop our strategic plan. We talk to our staff, we talk to our city council, and make sure that our strategic plan aligns with where our council wants to go and also supports what our staff sees as well, right? They're the experts. They're the ones in the business providing the services every day. They know what we need to be successful. So they're going to provide a lot of input as well. And then, like I said, it's all going to wrap up, well, sort of wrap up in the summer with our strategic plan and financial plan being adopted by our city council. And then we get to work on the next phase, which is implementing our financial plan. It might look like there might be something on the ballot in the future that the city might ask you for. I don't know what that looks like today and what that's going to be, but there is a possibility of that. So once we develop our financial plan, then we're going to start our next round of engagement to talk about how does the city go from where it is today to where everyone wants it to be in the future, and how do we make sure that we are funding it properly. So we're very excited about the hard work that Imagine Gresham is taking, but it's good work. It's going to help us move forward, develop that cohesive vision, get us the resources we need to be successful. So with that, those were all my things I wanted to talk about. So
you ready for questions?
I'm ready for all the questions.
One little question that he snuck in.
Yes.
Good job, though. You're a numbers guy. All right, you are ready for questions?
I am, yes,
Okay,
thank you.
here we go. Mark?
Is city council meetings open to the public yet?
Yes, all of our city council meetings are open to the public.
Well, they haven't, because of COVID, they've been online, but
Oh, yes, they are online. You can still participate.
in person, I guess is what I'm saying. Are they open to that?
Are you speaking to having the public in person in a council meeting? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at making that transition likely in April after the state lifts the mask mandate is probably what we're looking at. But they are still open. They've been open the whole time. They are online. You can participate online as well. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. But
I think the way the question was asked was probably a pretty accurate statement. When you can't physically be someplace, sometimes it feels like it's closed. You wouldn't necessarily want to just sit and talk. You'd want to be present when there's something there. So good question about April, you think?
yeah, and
Okay.
we have seen an increase in attendance since having them actually be online and virtual. We know that it's not possible for all of our public to physically show up to a city council meeting in the evening. A good example is always parents with young kids. That's hard to physically show up to a council meeting. So there actually is a state law that we now need to make our city councils available online. So we'll make sure that we continue to have that option and make sure, if people want to come in person, that's great. And also there's always the option for people to participate online as well. So our question taker left, so maybe raise your hand if you have a question next.
Okay, Leslie, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious if you could define a little bit more about what the ideas are for the homeless, the money that you're looking to do for that. What does that look like?
Yeah, thank you for the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. So a large part of that funding was towards adding a homeless outreach worker. Another portion of those funds will be used to secure specific places in shelters or resources so that we can make sure that we have the availability and the resource that we need. If we're out in the field and see something, that we know we have that contract and that resource available, and we can make sure that that's available to people who are experiencing homelessness in Gresham. So that's what the majority of those funds are going towards.
Okay, another question. Oh. Is this aerobic exercise for Lynn today? Here we go.
Sorry, Lynn.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. I could use this. There we go.
I wanted to make till you got to the opposite side of the room before I raised my hand.
I'm waiting for Brian to be next.
So, about 2 weeks ago, my wife was picking up our daughter from a dance class, and she's standing out there with our other daughter waiting for the dance class to get over, and witnessed a lady get her purse stolen right in the middle of broad daylight, and right in the heart of Gresham there. And then on Friday, I was informed that 2 businesses 2 doors down from me were broken into on Thursday night. So for me, I mean, I'm seeing more and more crime and people just blatantly breaking the law because they know there's not enough cops on the street to enforce it. So while I think the Imagine and all the other stuff is really great, but if we don't start getting a handle on the crime that's getting out of control right now, I think we're going to have a big snowball of adverse selection where people like myself who own a business and a home and want to be part of the community decide I've had enough, I'm going to have to pick up my bags and go somewhere where I'm not worried about my wife getting mugged in the middle of the streets on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Then
So
that's.
was that a question? What's the
what
time?
are we doing?
yeah, how can we put that as the forefront to make it safe and get the officers that we need?
Yeah.
That's
No, thank you for sharing that. And that's definitely something that we're hearing, again, not just happening in Gresham, around our region and the nation, which doesn't make an excuse, though, for us not fixing it. So like I said, one of the challenges we have is our limited resources. So we've been operating with the same number of sworn police officers for a really long time, and we know that it's not enough. The challenge is with trying to get more police officers right now today is to go through the whole state academy process. It takes about 18 months for us to go from hiring someone to them actually being active in the field as a sworn officer. And so that's the issue is while we want to solve it immediately, the system doesn't work like that. And that's unfortunately to some degree out of our hands because it is the state who runs our police academy across the entire state. So that's the challenge that we face is, again, we can't just like magic, bring on a bunch of officers tomorrow. So what we are doing, we are recruiting. So you'll see right now on our website, we're recruiting for lateral police officers and new police officers. Knowing that it's probably going to take us several months to get the new ones up and running, hopefully the laterals will have a more immediate impact. So we are doing that as well. And then, like you said, all of the things we're doing around Safe Gresham are also a piece of that too. So we're trying to solve for the short term with what we can do with trying to hire, again, laterals and also new police officers, and trying to solve for the long term with the prevention, the collaboration, the intervention. So it is a little bit of a dance of trying to solve for both, and also knowing that, we probably aren't going to solve it tomorrow. That's the reality. We're hoping that we can make improvements over the next few months, knowing it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. But that's where we're at today and what we're trying to do. And the mayor wants to add to my comments, I think, on that.
I'm gonna ask a question.
Oh, you're after Tom. I have a question. I have a question too, though. I just came from a community when I was on vacation where the resorts have all hired one security company to protect them instead of relying on the federal. They don't have a city police; they have federal police there. Is that possible? Can the city hire a contractor to do specific things for public safety to give the safety appearance? Safety out there. With not giving them the ability to write tickets and all that kind of stuff, but just that presence is. It didn't dawn on me that was even possible till I just came back and saw how it was working down there. Is that possible? They're not officers, but it's a security company providing a particular service. Is that possible?
I'll have a little bit of a lengthy answer to your question. It
was a wimpy question, but it just dawned on me, Nina, that could be a short-term solution.
Yeah, so a few things. I'd say first, I would always encourage if a business is having challenges, you can always hire your own security. That's always an option that you have, right? And I know that a lot of people have used that option recently. specifically to the police department, there are a few models that exist in the country, and so one, I'm going to talk about technology for a minute, because there are technologies that do exist that help augment having a person there physically. And also there are models across the country. They're typically called something like a community service officer. And they're not, it's different than a sworn officer on patrol. We haven't been able to implement it, again, because we don't have the resources to implement that. We don't just have, extra money over years to implement that program. But I will say we're going through a police organizational assessment review right now, if you haven't heard about that. And a consulting firm is looking at best practices across the country, is looking at what are the calls for service that are in Gresham. So it's looking at City of Gresham calls for service for the police department, and then going to help us identify, here's where you're at today, Gresham, and here's what you need based on your community, your demographics, your calls for service, and what your model should look like. So that will be finished this summer, and I think that will have some more specific information and perhaps some recommendations on, should we be structured differently? Should we have more of this, more of that? So to your question, some of that's going to be answered in the organizational assessment review.
Okay.
I will also take the opportunity to brag on our police department a little bit, because we have installed a number of cameras in major intersections throughout Gresham that have been tremendously helpful, not just in traffic accidents, but also in helping us with investigations, and even occasionally when something is actually happening.
Yeah, technology is great.
Yeah, there's always
and
that
I didn't mean
too.
to undermine I just saw it as maybe
Yeah.
a temporary solution, or temporary, not solution, stopgap. So Tom, and then the mayor, okay?
Golly, I get before the mayor. Whew. This is more like a comment more than a question. I think that what we're seeing in Gresham is a national issue. It's not just in Gresham, although we need to address the problem here in Gresham. It's a societal problem that if we have people raising children that never had the guidelines and so forth, their children aren't going to have. So we almost have to go back to the family unit and start there and start some correction so that people have some value in life and don't want to threaten everybody else. It's just that simple. It goes back to the family. The schools cannot teach the children. The city can't teach the children. It has to be the family. That's all I got to say.
And now Mayor Stovall.
So I'll refrain from actually adding to any of Nina's comments because this is Nina's presentation, but I welcome anybody to have a conversation with me about our dedication to public safety, all the efforts that we're doing, and all the things that have been done. So I'll stop right there. If you have any conversation that you want to have, myself, any of the counselors are very open to this conversation because we have a lot of data and information that actually points us in the right direction of where we're going. The question, though, is you mentioned $2.6 million that we have allocated, but there is another $2.165 million that the council's given direction on, specifically for police and fire, that's also making its way through kind of the decision process. So combined, that's close to almost $5 million on top of the extension of the police, fire, and parks fee that the council just actually extended. That was first decided on 2020. Fall of 2020, this council just extended that. It's another $3.8 million in regards to police, fire, and parks. So that's a grand total north of almost $9 million, if I'm doing all my math correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so that's the question. There is another $165 million that's also in addition to what was shared here.
Correct, yes. Thank you. City Council recently approved the addition of some additional funds further for public safety. And I will just also, if you're unfamiliar with the city's budget, anyone know it by heart? Yeah, okay, the mayor does. That's good. That's good news. Guess what percent of our general fund budget goes to public safety? Not the mayor. Anyone else got a guess? What, 80? Oh my gosh, how'd you know our budget? You should have raised your hand earlier. Yeah, 80% of the city's general fund budget, which is $90 million, goes towards public safety. So that's just an important note. And the mayor has a,
It's
actually closer to 90%.
I rounded down, you rounded up. Yeah, it's pretty large. So
It
want to add
is
that
large.
on. Okay, we had a question.
And this is a group of business people, and we're used to having a problem today, and this afternoon we're going to work on it, and tomorrow we're going to implement it. That's not how government works. They work on month-long whatevers over and over and over again. So that's the frustrating part when you're speaking to a group like us. We want you to fix it now because we can,
Yeah.
and because that's where we're built in. We're
Yeah.
mounted. So we've got another question here.
Hi there, my name is Edith Quiroz. I'm the executive director of Programa Hispano. And Nina, you came to our casita back in September, so it was great talking to you. I have two questions. One is related to the Youth Violence Prevention Program. If you can speak about what the funds are being used for that program, where is it running out of, what are the funds being used to prevent youth violence? And then whether or not, when we talk about public issue and increasing police force, what are the recruitment efforts for diverse police officers, and if any of the funds that you have could actually be used for encouraging youth to get into that kind of public service, by offering scholarships to college. So we know the dropout rate for students of color is pretty high, and even the finishing college is pretty difficult as well, and not very many go into those professions. And so could you use some funds to provide scholarships for that?
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so first question was the Youth Violence Prevention Program. We're starting with, we just put out an RFP for community-based organizations who provide services or programs to engage youth. It just closed. We had a lot of people respond, a lot of organizations respond. And I don't have all the information on exactly what all the programs are, but it is a mix, a little bit of mentoring, a little bit of, youth recreation, trying to do different types of programs that we know are based, have had research proven these things work. So we're going to be funding a lot of those programs here in the next month, I think is when we're going to approve those programs, see how that goes, and then we'll work on, what does phase 2 of it look like. So that's where we're at today with that. It is housed under our youth services division at the city, which is responsible for not just the youth violence prevention program, but also our internships program, anything youth related. We have a youth advisory council as well, so it's also responsible for that. So second part of your question about recruitment, we actually do have a cadet program out of our police department, which has been challenging during COVID. I think that's been one of the issues we've had over the last year is they couldn't do as many in-person things. So we couldn't quite have the robust cadet program that we used to have. So we're really fortunate that we have that program, but that's not to say that's enough. So fortunately, one of the things we funded from the ARPA dollars is a recruiter for public safety. Knowing that historically both police and fire are not necessarily the most diverse industries, and again, this is nationally, this is not specific to Gresham, and trying to make those connections with youth, with our school districts, with our organizations, to see how can we bridge that gap and what can we do differently. And so that's part of our kind of next step. So I'm sure they'd love to, once we hire them, love to connect with you to talk about how we can build those relationships. Mm-hmm.
Another question, Nina. I have a question while I'm letting them think. So Gresham community has a certain percentage of Caucasian, certain percentage of Hispanic, et cetera. Is our police force pretty much the same percentage right now?
I do not have an answer to that right now.
Okay.
By department.
It's my understanding that we are, that there is diversity in our police force right now that's pretty representative of the community. That doesn't mean it can't improve, ever.
I don't know the data. I do know that our city as a whole, our demographics, we don't have the diversity of our community. So I don't know if an individual department would be separate from that.
So the overall, but not.
Yeah, overall we are not. And that's one of why diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of our city council's work plan goals, is knowing that we have some gaps and some work to do as an organization internally. And we just hired our first diversity, equity, and inclusion manager, and excited about the work that she's going to be doing on this front. So I do know as a whole we're not there yet. Yes, we have some diversity, but in terms of matching demographics, city organization to community, we are not there yet.
Yeah. Well, in all of our business, that's something that we are alert to and strive for. But I don't want us to think that we're not already at a certain level of that. as opposed to all of something. So another question, we've got one more. Yeah, one more time for one more.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
And I've lived in Gresham now for a year, and getting to know all of the neighborhood associations and how these structures work within the community. My understanding is that there have previously been community block grants available for projects that associations can apply for specific kinds of projects. Couple things. Are any of these funds going to be made available to this community block grant program? And are the types of projects, is there an opportunity to expand the breadth of projects that can take place headed by these very hyper-local associations that might mirror a lot what you're trying to accomplish strategically?
Oh, good question. Yes, we have our Community Enhancement Grant Program that is funded by our Community Development Block Grants, which typically is used by neighborhood associations or other small, sometimes community-based organizations to fund those kind of neighborhood-based projects or programs that people think would be really impactful. I'm not sure the exact timeline. I think we just approved some recently. It is typically once a year, and it goes through a community enhancement grant committee. And we are open, I think, to any ideas. So it doesn't, it is intended to, again, serve a neighborhood or an area and help improve it. But we're pretty open to whatever someone applies for. So I'd encourage you to reach out. You can look at the Community Enhancement Grant Program guidelines. Sometimes we have school districts apply. It's not always neighborhood associations. So we're pretty open to whatever ideas people bring to the table. Was that it, Lynn?
Thank you.
Thank you all for the time and for being here today. I really appreciate it. Feel free if you ever want to connect with me. I'm always available. I have some business cards with me today. And please check out our website so you can learn more about all the awesome things the City of Gresham is doing. Thank you all.
Thank you. You did great. Super. And good luck on that house. Yeah, it's in Gresham, right? It's in Gresham, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, just checking. The Southwest Gresham. Okay. So this is dessert, and they're over here, and hardly anybody has done them. So we need to have the dessert closer to the meal, because this happened before. I took like 100 brownies home last time I was here. So have some dessert. That's a reminder. This is what the replay schedule looks like that you can grab on your way out. Thank you, MetroEast, for producing that and rebroadcasting this today. I learned a lot of things from you today. I want to make one clarification for what you had stated this morning. 23 years ago, Gresham hired a group and put together a work plan, put together a strategy plan that was a 20-year plan, and it's like 40 pages. And it ended 2020. And we did everything in there, everything that was in that work plan. And so I don't want you to think that Gresham just came out of the dark ages and didn't do stuff in the past. That's not true. We have a plan. We had a plan before. And it's a joyful occasion, and it's our opportunity to be part of that for the next 20 years. And that's what the Imagine Gresham is going to be and going to do. So jump on board, be part of the process, and make sure that your voice, your business, your family, your future, your grandkids are taken care of in whatever you stay and give that opportunity for Gresham to implement. All right. Thanks, Nina. That was great. It was really fun. And she offered to be here. We didn't have to beg her. She says, I want to come and speak. So it was good for you to do that, and we appreciate that. I want to thank again our sponsors. I want to welcome Persimmon Community Club, and you join Columbia Bank, Portland General Electric, the Boeing Company as presenting sponsors, and thank you Gresham Barlow School District and MetroEast Community Media. Next month is Workforce Month here. We're going to have Mount Hood Community College Business Department have a panel here to talk about workforce. What does the future workforce look like? Are they ready? Are you ready? So let's join the local educators and ask those tough questions. I call March Workforce Month because also in March is our summit, our economic summit. And the topic of our economic summit is unmasking change, and it's unmasking change in the workforce. We're bringing Mike Hourigan from North Carolina over here again. He came to us several years ago and did our summit on millennials. If any of you were there, you know that he's not only funny, but he's smart. He's coming back again to Gresham for our summit. It's a 4-hour seminar. Bring your staff, bring your friends, bring your customers, your vendors. Sign up. It's March 31st. Breakfast. You're done at 11:30. It's a wonderful opportunity of growth. Also, upcoming, the Business and Leaders Luncheon in April, our goal is to have the sheriff candidates here for a panel. I haven't got all of them confirmed. I'm going to hesitate. I might have them confirmed, but I came back to about 2,400 emails. Some of them were about the fire. Some of them were because I was gone for 3.5 weeks and I haven't gone through all of them. So maybe all of them are confirmed and I just don't know. I just got back last night at 9:30. So I want to work on that. But the panel where we've invited the sheriff candidates, Multnomah County Sheriff candidates to come. And that particular Business and Leaders Luncheon is co-sponsored with West Columbia Gorge Chamber. So I'm hoping that you put that on your calendar. March, workforce, April, county sheriffs. So that's all I have this morning. I want to thank all of you for being here. And is it 1 o'clock? Yes. We're ending on time. Yay. Go out, be safe, and hopefully next time we don't have to wear masks. That would be fun and uplifting, in fact. So applause, applause, applause. There you go. Thank you for being here today. See you next month.